On today's episode of Bites and Banter, we're joined by Assistant Vice President, Branch Manager of Robert Half Chicagoland, George Klosser. How are you doing today, George?
Good, Rocky. How are you?
I'm so excited. I love when we get to talk to Robert Half and we get to talk about all the cool things you guys are doing, the resources you're providing to our industry. And so let's just dive into it. Today, let's talk about the demand for skilled talent. This is a great resource that Robert Half produces. Can you walk the audience through what is this resource? What does it entail? Just give us an overview of what we're looking at here, what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So the demand for skilled talent's an absolutely fantastic tool. It's an annual publication from Robert Half that gives a full look at the current tech hiring landscape. So it goes over, any kind of issues that IT leaders are seeing, whether it's modernization, skill set gaps in the market. It's really comprehensive, and again, it's a great tool to have in your back pocket.
No, that's fantastic. And there's a lot of trends, a lot of data in there. Can you tell me to start what is the data showing related to hiring in the tech space, and how does that pertain to the skills that organizations are looking for?
Yeah, so Rocky, absolutely. There is good news. About 97% of IT leaders are hiring this year, whether it's new positions, if it's vacated roles, and that's just in the first half of 2025 alone. Probably won't come to a surprise to you, Rocky, that it's just emerging tech is playing a huge piece in the hiring this year. There's, again, no surprise here. AI, machine learning, security across the board, data, everything, IT operations are all huge focuses for IT leaders this year. And obviously, they're actively seeking professionals with these backgrounds and to stay competitive, stay abreast, and staying up to date in the IT landscape in general.
So jobs are there, and emerging technology are really impacting the job market when it comes to technology. That being said, what are some challenges, George, that technology leaders are facing when it comes to hiring and the skills they're looking for in 2025?
The IT leaders have it tough right now. There's tons of challenges all over the place. Obviously, the one huge challenge in 2025 is technical debt in general. I've been talking to a lot of clients, a lot of folks in the industry. Everything's getting a little bit old. Technology is moving so fast that if you are not up to date in everything, then you're way behind. Again, whether it's bad code, outdated systems, inefficient processes, if you had to take a shortcut in 21 and 22 just to catch up a little bit, now it's starting to hit you and you're starting to feel it. Again, AI is always a buzzword around, but it's actually becoming a real thing. Last year, we had so many leaders just reaching out saying, hey, we need data engineers, we need data scientists, we need to clean up our data in order for the AI initiatives that we are doing this year. And they've done that last year, and now we're seeing where it's going to go in implementing AI.
AI obviously isn't going anywhere, and I think I
No.
love hearing you talk about how the data is backing that up, right? These skills that really organizations need to kind of help advance their AI strategy are in demand, right? They're there, they're in the market. When you look at the trends, when you look at 2025 and, what are you seeing in the technology space really as gaps? What in the technology departments people are looking to hire, what areas are most affected and impacted by those gaps?
Right now, there's tons of gaps all over the place. Big pieces of it are obviously in the security space. When you are implementing AI and when you're implementing ERPs, customizing, doing all the bells and whistles, it's creating vulnerabilities. It's the same thing with the tech debt. If you can't build a house on an infrastructure that's not in good shape, right? So if your infrastructure is a little bit old and you start piecing stuff on top of it, it becomes very shaky. Security has been I mean, you've seen the news. Security breaches, ransomware, all over the place. Big names. People, their goal is to keep their names out of the news unless it's for good stuff. So the vulnerabilities that are being created by just everything moving so fast and not having an upgraded foundation in your technical landscape is just creating so much need for the security space. Like I mentioned, can't stop talking about AI. So we are literally seeing everything across the gambit, whether it is, hey, we're updating our everything in the infrastructure. We're getting ready to implement Copilot. By the way, what is Copilot? How do we maximize it? Everybody in the ERP space is saying, hey, SAP S4 HANA is coming up. ECC is going to stop being supported. What do we do? And they just don't have the skill sets on their teams. So there's a couple of things that they're doing to alleviate that. Obviously, utilizing staffing firms, utilizing consultants, consulting firms is helping to bridge that gap. But then what do you do when everything's implemented and you have no idea how to use it? So change management has been huge for us too. Whether it's, hey, we just put in, NetSuite. We know we're not utilizing it fully. We know that we're not, getting the reports that we want. By the way, why aren't we getting the reports? And then you have to go backwards and look at your data and see what's going on there. So it's truly been a huge gambit of hey, we need to fix our infrastructure, clean up our data. We're doing implementations. AI is now a real thing. It's not just a buzzword. And it's just really across the board.
Wow, like my brain's just going
I know.
right? Like knowing the technology space and knowing how quickly it's growing, hearing you talk about, man, the security piece is really important because the AI piece is coming and, maybe last year, year before it was a little softer, but now it's tangible, right? Hey, we need these skills. We have to have these skills. And brings a question to me as someone who's in this space, who's a leader in this space, and who works for it works alongside of HDI local chapter officers who are all in this space in different
Yep.
roles in different organizations. What are leaders in technology? What are they prioritizing? Like, what does the trend show when it comes to hiring? Comes to the skills they're prioritizing? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the prioritization has been kind of crazy again because folks in 2024, second half of 2024, the big buzzword was AI, but they didn't know. They knew, but they didn't know what that entailed. Even on the Robert Half side, we were seeing some goofy skill sets that they didn't even know what to call. It's like, hey, we're looking for what we think is a prompt engineer, but we don't know if that's the right title. So we almost had to go in and go through the job description and say, listen, in order to get the right skill set here, we've got to tweak even the title. Obviously, the job description is great, but nobody knows what the heck a prompt engineer is. And now it's turned into, hey, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for, again, a data scientist, any kind of skill set in the data space in order to get AI up to speed. But again, it's a lot of times the IT leaders are handcuffed a little bit. Whether it is budget constraints, everybody knows, 21 and 22, you had the great resignation. Folks were picking up and moving for salaries that are a little bit inflated, we'll say. And now folks with the current situations are sticking where they want to be. They're looking for that safety. They're not looking to make a big move, and it's creating a huge skill set gap. So in order to kind of fix that, a lot of IT leaders are investing in the people that they have now. It may not be, hey, we have a really amazing data scientist. We have a junior data analyst that we're coaching up, that we're training, that we're allowing to grow in the organization. And with that's coming institutional knowledge. If you're looking to implement AI in the healthcare space, it's going to look way different than the finance space. There's a lot of regulations that you have to think about that are different in all industries. So that's kind of one of the million landmines that the IT leaders are dealing with right now.
George, so much good insight. No, knowing that there's these skills gaps, right? And organizations are hiring for technology skills. What are the barriers to success that really the demand for skilled talent is showing for these technology leaders?
Yeah, so the demand for skilled talent, the research really found that again, tech debt is really a top barrier to success for technology leaders. 55% of them are saying it's a huge obstacle in tackling critical initiatives. And obviously, the other half, nearly 50% of the tech leaders are ranking lack of talent in the field as a huge barrier. Like, hey, listen, we want to implement this stuff. We just don't have the internal talent to do it. Another issue that, again, depending on the size of the company, depending on what they're doing, it's the cross-functional collaboration too.
Mm,
So again, in the ERP space, hey, who owns this? Is it going to be the CFO? Is it going to be IT? And you really have to get both of those areas really, really talking, sitting down. Again, like in the sense of Workday, if you're implementing Workday, is HR owning that? Do they know what they want? So if you think about the full software development lifecycle, if you don't have a good PM or a PM/BA gathering requirements, you have no
mm,
idea what that side of the house is going to need in order to make everything better. So really, it's cross collaboration. It's a talent skill set gap, and it's really talent oriented. If you can get the talent in there, they can true subject matter experts. They can lead the horse to the water, really. So
mm.
it's really all of those things together that are really causing headaches for folks these days.
Yeah, and it's the business that we all work in, regardless of if you're in financial, you're in healthcare, you're in a technology company, maybe you're in and you're in application sales as a service, right? They all have something in common, and that's they have a outcome they desire for their customers.
Yep.
And so as you talk about that cross-functional need, right, to require or to gather the requirements and what are you looking for to achieve from this technology and this AI or whatever it is you're doing, it's so critical to drive those outcomes. And as you're talking through kind of talent being such a key obstacle, right, for these organizations, technical debt and talent, what are leaders doing? What are their strategies to overcome and bridge the gap that they're seeing because of these things?
So one of the main things that they're doing is having communications with people like myself and stay within the industry. I go to networking events, part of HDI, that family has been fantastic, but it's really communication between everybody. Having the CEO there, having senior directors there, having CFOs, and just having an understanding of here's where we need to go, and realistically thinking about it is saying, okay, well, we don't have those skills here. Do we go out to a third party consulting arm? Do we go, to a staffing firm like Robert Half and say, hey, listen, these are the skill sets we're looking for. The demand for skilled talent really has all of that information, as well as our salary guide, just to help guide folks and just saying, hey, even if you're not working with us, here's what you have to expect. You have to pay top dollar. You have to, and even pre COVID, some of the skill sets weren't on site either. But with that on site piece coming back, you have to have the flexibility to say, hey, listen, we need this XYZ skill set. We understand it's going to be expensive, but we are going to utilize a big part of the budget in order for us to get across the finish line with this. And then you have to
Mm,
have buy-in from the teams. Again, not just the IT team. You have to have buy-in from the finance team, sales team, HR, and the top performing clients that I see all have that. They're meeting together at least every week, if not every other week, just to get an understanding of progress. They're learning on the fly. They're making tweaks as they're going through implementation. So communication is going to be a huge one. If you don't have it, you're going to see the companies that have burnout. Folks are tired. They're wearing 7 or 8 hats, and eventually you're going to see those people leave.
It's almost like thinking strategically means thinking about change management, right? And I think
Yep.
that piece is so important as we talk about the skills gap in technology and overcoming, technical debt and advancing the ultimately the things that are going to improve our customer experience, our employee experience all starts with that communication, collaboration, and
I was going to say that's what attracts good
yeah.
talent too, is when they come in and you don't have 15 rounds of interviews with
Yeah.
different folks. Like, yes, we want to have a comprehensive look at what this candidate can do. So clear your schedule for a little bit.
Mm.
Get together. If it is an IT role, grab the CFO, grab a controller, grab HR, and do a panel interview. Knock it out in 1 or 2 interviews. That way, you're not losing talent in that sense, because everybody's been through it. You
Mm.
do an interview, you get a second round interview, you don't hear anything for 3 weeks, and then either you're disinterested or you found 6 other jobs at that point.
Right, right. So it's making sure you're quick, right? And I think when I looked at the salary guide, which I know is not the main point of conversation right now, that was the thing that stood out, right? Is candidates are looking for quick movement, right? If you're a good
Yep.
candidate, we need to fill it. We need to make that decision quickly and offer those expanded benefits like hybrid work, right? For those
Hmm.
very specific niche skills that are hard to find. So it brings me to the question, like, when you're working with leaders who have these challenges, are really focusing on overcoming these challenges, what are the hiring strategies that have helped them do that you've seen be successful? Like, what are the trends showing there?
There's always ways to attract folks and get them in the door. Like I kind of mentioned, if you're looking to attract the top emerging talent, subject matter experts, be ready to pay top salaries. Especially depending on state by state, having salaries in the Indeed ad, in LinkedIn. That way they're not going through several rounds of interviews to be offended by an offer. That's one really easy thing that you can do, and depending on state by state, required by law. You can also, again, sweeten the pot. Include the perks, include benefits, include workplace flexibility. If you can be remote, if you can afford to be a remote, find the subject matter expert that you can bring in, again, whether it's on a contract basis or a permanent basis, to get these projects done. A lot of folks will even take a slight cut not to come into the office. We were spoiled a little bit during the pandemic, and now that we're back, we forgot what traffic is. Um, these kind of delays, faster interview process, it's what's losing folks, candidates to their competitors. Um, Increasing hiring contractors and consultants. If you only have a project, it's the scope is going to be XYZ. You're going to need somebody for 6 months, maybe a year, maybe a couple of months for change management. Work it into your budget. If you just implemented something and you know that you're not going to use it correctly, think about that and plan for it. So a lot of it comes down to planning on the front end. Unfortunately, supply and demand is right now. If you don't have the skill set and you're not finding it through internal efforts, give somebody a call. Again, whether it's somebody like myself or somebody in your network, give them a call, see how they're doing it. So it does truly come down to collaboration across the board too.
That's good. I think the skills that are in need. And every year Robert Half releases the demand for skilled talent, right? In that report and the details in it, there are some commonalities, right? AI is not going anywhere, machine learning is not going anywhere, security, data analytics, those are all going to be critical. And so if you're not seeing it internally, yeah, I think you're makes so much sense, George, that you'd have to think outside the box, right? Maybe you
Yeah.
don't normally hire contracts. Maybe you need to lean into that and see maybe there's a benefit here. And I'd be curious to hear if you know how many contract jobs or projects end up turning into we need this a lot longer than we thought we did.
I was gonna say, yeah, and that, or alternatively, they say, well, geez, that Rocky really knows his stuff. We don't have this knowledge internally. Do you mind if we do a contract to hire to bring him in? Or alternatively, they'll keep that person on a little bit longer, hire somebody that's a little more junior, and just have them, a contractor train up and bring them up to speed. So there's options all over the place, but you've got to be flexible in this environment. Otherwise, boy, oh boy, are you in trouble.
Man, so much good information from such a good resource. George, before I ask you a final send off question, is there anything else about the demand for skilled talent that you think our audience should know, right? It's such a great resource. Anything else that really stands out to you that you want to make sure you highlight?
Take a look at it. Reach out to your local Robert Half person. They will have access to it. They will be able to walk you through it. Again, with everything moving so quickly, these kinds of tools, even if you don't use it right now, again, keep it in your back pocket. You never know if somebody's going to change, or with M&A being a thing, you just don't know. So be ready to be agile.
I love it. So, George, one final question for you.
Uh-oh.
If you could hit rewind on your life, you could run into younger George. You pick the age. What is one piece of advice or words of wisdom you would share with younger George
Oh,
that
younger
you wish you
George.
would have known then?
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that guy was such a wild man. The one thing that I probably say is, hey, get involved, be involved, whether it's family, if it's work, if it's networking, get yourself in it, throw yourself in it fully. And again, don't forget about your family and friends. Go to their weddings, go to the stuff that you don't want to go to, but at the same time, throw yourself into work too, because it's what you love.
Do what you love. Don't be afraid to go all in. I love that. That's advice that I have to remind myself, George. So I appreciate you sharing that with me and our audience. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming, talking about the demand for skilled talent. Such a great resource. And we will catch you on the next episode of Bites and Banter.